Okay, so the topic of lucidity. I decided to make this video today regarding that topic, and it's going to be mainly audio, so grab yourself something in related to your sense of hearing and let's get started. So lucidity is a state of consciousness, and usually when people refer to lucidity, they talk about dreaming and gaining consciousness during sleep. That usually happen in your REM sleep, which is one of the cycles of sleep, and it is responsible for brain regeneration and stuff related to the brain, whereas the other stages, the stages of deep sleep, are more related to memory and physical effort recovery. So these are two aspects to keep in mind. There's the REM sleep and the deep sleep. None of the things that I'm going to share with you today about lucidity are a result of me using drugs or alcohol to alter my perception of reality. Lucidity is accessible to anyone, and it is actually as vivid as the true reality, and everything is possible in your dreams. So let's start by the first point, which is the risks and the benefits of lucid dreaming. Let's start with the risks. So first thing is that I noticed in many posts and some books which link the three principles that I'm going to tell you about, which are luck, Lucifer, and lucidity. So luck as of gambling, and Lucifer as of the light bringer, that's the actual meaning, and lucidity. So as you notice, the three of them start the same way, and it's mainly for some reason. And if you think that any of these is something that you don't want to have to do with, then you might be right. The second risk is dream paralysis, and I myself have experienced dream paralysis multiple times, and I've always made it through it. So I'm in a point where they don't bother me that much, and I go through them easy. But who is to say that everyone that goes through them makes it? And there's even an observation made by people that we have a mindset, meaning that we have multiple minds, multiple versions of us, that they all surface during sleep. And what guarantees that all of them makes it through that dream paralysis? So we don't know. So and the last risk of lucid dreaming is the impact on the psyche. In order for you to remain lucid inside of a dream, you need to have a certain degree of poise and let's call it carelessness, because you will be in your first experience amazed and shaken by how vivid some dreams get. That might throw you off the lucid dreaming experience. So from what I know, this is some daredevil aspect to lucid dreaming, and I've heard of people starting to lose track of what's real and what's not real, and that could be dangerous. So those are, in my opinion, the risks related to lucid dreaming. Now for the benefits of lucid dreaming is that you will get a better understanding of reality and a better understanding of the thing that first gotten you into lucid dreaming, wherever that thing might be. You will be able to better understand how thoughts occur and how dreams ignite from patterns. And I give you an example. So this is a silly one, but it drives the point. When I was young and I was sleeping next to my brother, he hit me with his leg, and that made me, during the dream, visualize that I've been hit by a truck. So the dream, as much as it would have been unspecific before, the fact that I've been hit by my brother's leg directly ignited the dream. And this happens a lot of time during lucid dreaming. Patterns like sounds around you or stuff you're preoccupied with during your days, all of those will appear during your lucid dreams. So yeah, that's one other benefit of lucid dreaming. Another one is that you will view your subconscious mind in 4K. And I use the term 4K just to express how vivid and real those experiences are. So one of my lucid dreams was about me viewing a tape of memories that I've thought I've forgotten about. So it was a tape scrolling down, and I was amazed about the things that were in my subconscious. And I was also scared because I was like, is this something that I subconsciously view every night? And now that I'm lucid about it, I can see what it's like to experience it every night. It's quite something. And I know that there's some people who work on their subconscious mind throughout lucid dreaming, meaning that during the lucid dreaming phase, they reprogram their subconscious mind, which is something that I haven't quite tried myself. And one last benefit I see to lucid dreaming is the people who experience near death get a sort of awakening, and some of them will turn to hippies, some of them will turn to millionaires, and it changes them. And if you're not, or if you haven't experienced a lucid dream yet, this is something that's quite view changing, and it will definitely impact the way you view the world. Okay, so let's move on to the next point that I wanted to make. So we've talked about the benefits and the risks of lucid dreaming, and now I wanted to talk about the lucidity as a state compared to accessing dreams with techniques and accessing lucidity with techniques. So there's a bunch of techniques on the internet that you can find that rely on using hypnotization and techniques where you wake up in the middle of the night and perform those techniques, and then you hypnotize yourself into having greater chances to accessing lucid dreams. Those techniques are trying to corner your REM sleep. That's the way I'm going to frame it. And the issue with that is that your REM sleep, just like your circadian rhythm, is impacted with the way you would wake up at night or the usage of screens before you sleep. There's a lot of things that impact your circadian rhythm, and lucidity or REM sleep, in my opinion, can't be cornered. So if you used to have your REM sleeps at a certain time of the day, or rather at a certain time of the night, it can't change. And then you will get into the stage where the techniques won't work, and I will call it lucid dreaming technique fatigue, because they no longer work. Now maybe if you give some time to the technique, maybe 7 days or 2 weeks, the technique will work again. That's my experience. Some people might experience that the more they practice those lucid dreaming techniques, those wake to bed techniques, or whatever the technique is, they will get better at them and they will experience more lucid dreams. But from my experience, it's a little bit tough because you risk losing your sleep and getting a bad day the next day. So if you value your restfulness, lucidity through techniques only is a bad deal in my opinion. And one last thing about lucidity through techniques is that it is more vivid compared to the average lucid dreams. So if you catch a lucid dream after you've woken up at night, you will experience something really vivid compared to gaining lucidity during a full night of sleep. That type of lucidity is not as vivid, and you might only recollect some details of the dream and then you wake up. So those are two different things. And I wanted to also talk about the principle of fire together, wire together, relating to lucidity, because as I've said, lucidity as a state is something different. So when you permeate lucidity in every aspect of your life, you're basically firing together, wiring together things with lucidity. So say for instance, if you journal your dreams every night, which is something that I don't do, and I actually didn't understand why it actually works. Why does dream journaling work in the first place? And it has to do with this thing that is firing together, wiring together. So first of all, the principle of fire together, wire together, is just so that everyone understands. This is an example of how you could view it. And I know that it has to do with the Pavlovian experiment, but let's just keep it simple. Say you have a work where you are expected to do a task where every time you hear a ringing bell, you lift your right arm, okay? So now, even after you've exited your work, when you will hear that ringing bell, you will subconsciously lift your right arm. And say, for instance, you're in a course where you're studying and you want to raise your arm to ask a question. Now, when you will raise your arm, you will subconsciously start expecting the bell to ring because you've done those two things simultaneously too many times, and now you're expecting them to both go hand in hand. And that's a long explanation to say why journaling works. So when you're always journaling your dreams and trying to remember details about the dream and so on, dreaming and journaling becomes two linked things in your brain. And suppose you're dreaming and the dream that you are experiencing is possible to be reflected on your journal, then that dream will be reflected on the journal. So I know that it's not quite convincing, but it has to do with fire together, wire together. One thing to keep in mind is that even lucid dreams can be forgotten upon waking up. So that's actually one of the reasons you want to boost or enhance your dream memory. It's that so that you can remember even the lucid dreams. And how I know this is because I've had dreams, lucid dreams, where I've forgotten that I've actually had them. And if it weren't for something during the day reminding me that I've actually had a lucid dream, I wouldn't have remembered. So that's why it's important to journal your dreams if you want to remember the lucid ones. And as of lucidity and my experience with it, I have linked listening to certain musics with lucidity. And every time I listened to that music, whether on a dream or in waking, I will ask myself if I'm lucid. So if I catch that song on my dreams, I will get lucid. If 3 months from listening to that song, I listen to that song once again on, say, a restaurant or somewhere else, I will ask myself if I'm lucid. And that's lucidity as a state. One other aspect of lucidity is one that the author of the book Reality Transurfing talks about, which is the understanding of outer intention. So the author talks about outer intention and inner intention. Inner intention is the intention with which you physically impact or you physically act on the world, whereas outer intention is about the intention that is outside of you and still acts on the world on your behalf. So you're not physically exerting yourself to act on the world. That outer intention is basically everything that is physically not you, that is acting on the world besides you or on behalf of you. And he speaks about how lucidity is about understanding outer intention, that it will help you understand better outer intention. So when you're flying in your dreams, say for example, you are using outer intention. It's as if you are using some intention that is outside of you in order for you to accomplish your set task during your dream. And the reason you can do that in your dreams and not in real life is because there's gravity in real life and it requires a huge outer intention for you to be able to fly in real life. The same way Jesus has walked on water. And why am I talking about all of this, even though it sounds a little bit woo-woo, but it's about the author of the book making a point where physical effort is not required in many aspects of life. And I say that as somebody who likes to do sport and physical exercising and exhaust myself. But that actual exhaustion is going to lead you to black out into deep sleep. And the days where I'm completely exhausted, I find it hard remaining lucid. So I understand why the author talks about physical effort being a bad thing. So I hope that I've made the point of outer intention and inner intention clear relating to lucidity. And another point that I wanted to talk about is how dreams are subjective. So people who don't see, they dream differently than people with visual capabilities. And also, modern lifestyle has impacted the way we dream. So you might find out that many dreams are shaped by the stuff that you see on your phone or that your technologies have allowed you to be able to do. And so our dreams are different than the people in the 90s or in the Middle Ages. And I say that because I want you to be creative with lucidity. So you can try out new techniques to trigger lucidity. And if you believe that something will work out, it will work out. And that's also one of the things you learn through lucidity, is that everything is possible. And the last point that I wanted to bring out is lucidity across age groups and lucidity in water. And I've viewed the video of Dr. Huberman and Dr. Matthew Walker where they discuss lucidity, and at some point the Dr. Matthew distinguished humans from other species as the ones that REM sleep the most. So if we're comparing a human being to a cat, for instance, we'll find that human beings REM sleep more time during their sleep compared to the cats. And REM sleep is decreasing throughout your lifetime. So babies do have the most REM sleep across the human lifetime. And that's quite something, because it just means that if we humans consider ourselves superior in any ways compared to animals, then babies who have the most of this characteristic which seems to distinguish us from other species are basically more special than humans. And I would go as far as to say that babies in the womb are more special than human beings. So REM sleep is at its peak during when the baby is in the womb, and it reduces throughout time. And one thing worth noting is that even as we get old, the amount of REM sleep an elderly person gets is the same amount of REM sleep that an adult gets. Elderly people sleep less, but they get more REM sleep. So questions to ask maybe, what are these elderly people, or what is the fetus dreaming about during his REM sleep? Those are questions, and from experience I know that some dreams I can only start to recollect as I'm heading to sleep or as I'm heading to bed. Since I don't journal my dreams, of course, but I'm just saying that the possibilities are endless. And I've actually talked about lucidity in water because, first of all, it relates to the fetus in the womb, and it also relates to a lot of long distance swimmers who I've watched, and they talked about how awareness remains even after long periods of exhaustion. Lucidity remains on the water, and water has a property related to lucidity. Some talk about how, let's say, they are hallucinating about music being played while they are swimming. Some talk about swimming and at the same time being at a table with their families. So you can see how there is a part of our brain which is seeking to make us feel at ease and make us feel comfortable across any bad thing that could happen to us. Maybe it could even be something shocking throughout our life, but still there's a safe space that we have in our minds. And lastly, I know that I'm repeating myself, but I believe that water has some lucidity properties, because one thing is sure is that it's difficult to sleep if you're wet. Even though I can assure you that I've had lucid dreams where I've been swimming and feeling the wetness and coldness of the water. But what I'm trying to get is that if you were to ever REM sleep while being immersed in water, you would definitely be lucid. That's a 100% chance, because you are aware since you are immersed with water, and you are at the same time dreaming in the REM sleep cycles. So yeah, that's the idea of lucidity and its relation to water and age groups. And yeah, pretty much I think that I've covered a lot of ground in this video. I'm going to check if there's anything left off in my notes that I have forgotten to talk about. So I just viewed my notes, and I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to talk about. Thank you for watching, or rather thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this type of content, hit a thumbs up and see you on the next video.